Sometimes when you've been away from painting for a while, you need to warm up, and I'm going to show you how with this pink poppy. It's just going to be easy and fun. On my palette I have magenta, Payne's gray, manganese blue, and sap green. I always start with a petal that's sort of to the side, and I'm just putting pink on. I lightened my pink a little bit, so the light areas are going in first. I normally paint very realistically, but for this exercise, I'm going to go a little bit looser. So now I'm going to drop in some more color, like on this side, there's quite a bit more color, so I'm going to put that in there and letting it spread. Also, it forms the curve of the flower. Okay, so on this first petal you learn things like how thick to make your paint. And I needed to add a little bit of thickness in there to get that darker color. And then down here, before it dries, we're going to put in some of the black. And this forms a star, so we'll kind of do the star thing. And then up here it curves up. Ran out of water. We'll just let that blend a little bit. And now on to another petal. This petal is considered, I'm doing one that's not touching that one so that it has time to dry. And this one, the whole petal, it doesn't really have that light pink area. So we're practicing on this behind flower. And now we're going to put in the black. And then goes around and then gets quite black right over here. So I'm going to use a different brush that puts the paint on a little more directly than that one. Let's get that sweep in there and just let it fuzz out. After I do this practice one at the end of this video, I'm going to show you how to change the color totally from the picture, and we're going to make a red poppy. Now I want some very light color in this one. This back petal is quite light. Not worrying too much about totally staying in the lines. And there's just a slightly darker area here, so I'll just drop some in there. And then the next petal also is fairly light, especially at the top, although the top's not in this picture. And we'll go with some darker as we go down. Let it blend. Now those are touching each other, so they're going to run together a little bit. So I'll just have them sort of kissing. This petal here is the lightest one at the very top, so we'll start out light. But I'm going to go right on into this other petal. Just a little bit darker. And I want some lighter in the middle, so I rinsed my brush and just put water on there to spread it. And then against this edge it gets a little bit darker again. And I'm going to go back to the black. And again, it makes some sweeping colors. That's a little bit too wet, but I like the way it's just spreading, and I'm just going to let it spread. Now, this petal is kind of a complicated one, but we don't need to make it as complicated as it is. And at the very end, it's pretty light, so I'm going to lighten that up. And this one again is light at the tips, and we want it to be light so that it shows against the top petal. Actually, I think this is all one petal, so we're going to just go across. get the darker pink, put it at the bottom, and let it float together. And then I'm dipping straight into the paint. Well, maybe so I dipped into the paint and spread it on my palette to get this darker color towards the bottom. And we'll just let it blend up there. And if it doesn't blend how we like it to, we can blend it some more. Just streak it up there. This one's fairly dark. It's a little bit light at the very top, but that's the only place. So I'm going to go get that light first. And then it gets quite a bit darker at this edge. You can get a straighter and nicer edge if you hold your brush pointing away from you. And now I'm going to go in with my other brush and get these darks in here. And again, this one's going to run really well because I got it while it was very wet, this one. And now it's time to look at the painting and figure out what I can do to make the shading better. And I'm seeing here that this fold shows up because it's darker behind it. So I'm just going to add a little bit darker there. And then this crease right here brings forward the front petal, so I'm just going to add a little bit there. And then back in here, there's some streaky things that come up, and we're going to just do that by putting water, clear brush, and putting water and letting it float up into those. I'll put some more paint over here. And kind of encourage it to float that way. All right, now a little bit on this flower. This got very weak. And I'm gonna mix some of the purple, the pink magenta with it to bring this up. And then in here, there should be a little bit more color. But at the top, it's very light. So just wetting my brush and blending that up. It's a very streaky poppy, so if you want more streaks, you can do that. But since I'm using this for warm-up, I'm not gonna do too many. On my palette for this one, I've added Pyrrole Red, Scarlet Pyrrole, Quinacridone Rose, and Quinacridone Magenta, and Gamboge. I don't know exactly which one of those I might need, because this is just for fun. Okay. I'm starting out at front petal. I've warmed up enough, I think. And I want this one to definitely have some reds. And I'm going to kind of go more fun on this one and let the colors drop in better and make their own thing. I think we'll just stick a little bit of magenta up there for fun. Now we'll go over to this other flower. And, oops, that was supposed to be a curve that way. And I'm just spreading it across with some clear water. If you get too much, dry your brush on the sponge and pick it up. Okay, let's get some orange in here. Yellow. Now these little quill brushes, they hold a ton of paint, so You have to be careful or it takes over the world. I kind of want to go really vibrant on this one. Red and orange poppies are so fun. All right, now we're going to go into this background one. And I want it darker than that front one, but I made the front one pretty dark, so I got to think about that. Gonna get it wet up here. I'm touching my brush to the sponge though, because this brush holds so much water. I'm gonna put my yellow at the top. And I'm gonna get a little bit of alizarin crimson. Oops, I should have mixed that on my palette first. And just to make this pop out, I mean look behind. I'm gonna let it blend up there a little bit. Drying it off my brush but not rinsing. I'm going to go with some more alizarin crimson. I'm mixing some on my palette now so I don't, and finish this petal and make this behind petal darker. Area. So that's better done with a skinnier brush though. I'll let it just blend out, you know, but let's get the blacker area on this too. And let it blend out a little bit. It's still damp. The paper is still damp a little bit. So even though I'm just painting loose, having fun, playing with color, I'm still keeping it on the realistic spectrum. I'm not going into an abstract poppy. Okay, this one we're going to mix some magenta with the alizarin. Have to get the yellow. I'm kind of crazy about gamboge. And then we get the black into this part here. I'm rinsing my brush and I'm just going to hit it from the top so that it spreads a little bit. There's only one little bit of stem here. And I'm putting some black in it. Now this one, I'm gonna just experiment a little bit with putting a little bit of black showing in the middle. See how I like it. Sometimes the black in the poppy petals goes up pretty far. Drying my brush. I didn't dry it enough. Drying my brush pretty dry to bring these up the rest of the way. That does kind of make the center, it does make the petals pop forward a little bit. And then, like always, the last thing is softening the edges, which I won't show you the whole thing, I'll just show you a little bit. Just get rid of that sharp edge up there. You have to clean your brush often. And it changes the whole outlook. Now sometimes you see way more when the tape's off, and one thing that I notice here that I kind of missed that I did on the other flowers is I made this darker area in here. That sort of formed a fold in this petal and kind of added some interest as well. All right, there you have a fun, easy warm-up poppy. So even though these are warm-up poppies, if you want it to be really realistic, you can go back into this foundation that you have and add some detail that'll make it a lot more realistic. I hope you had fun watching, and I hope you have a lot of fun playing with wet on wet and poppies.